This, for hundreds of years, was the model of truth. Now, when I go through this, remember Jesus said, I am the truth. The issue of the gospel is truth. You have a personal creator God. At the bottom of the video screen of history, you have created man. Man responded to the truth in the personal creator God. All truth resided in a personal creator God. Scientific truth, anthropological, philosophical, metaphysical, theological, historical, all truth resided in a personal creator God. Man responded to it. Onto the scene came a movement called the Renaissance. The Renaissance said, we don't need God. Now, I'm going to go through 4 movements, and each one of them explains a little different way. Why? Because see how great man is. This is when they elevated man, when they made statues of man, the physical body, everything. And what the Renaissance did was bring the concept that there's a personal creator God a quarter of the way down the video screen of history and elevated man. And it wouldn't have gone further than that if it wasn't followed by what? The Enlightenment. The Enlightenment came onto the scene and said, we don't need God. Now notice the difference. See how great man can reason. Man can reason through the sin problem. Man can reason through the solution, salvation. And the best picture I've ever known of it is this picture here. In a storm, the captain with Christ's arm almost on his shoulder. And the caption would read, Christ is the master of my destiny. What the Enlightenment did historically was take that arm off. And the caption read, I am the captain of my destiny. And what the Enlightenment did was bring the concept there's a personal creator God another quarter of the way down the video screen of history and elevated man. Then onto the scene came a movement that a lot of people, I think, missed. The erudites, all of them missed for years, the significance of the Industrial Revolution. Oh, folks, it played a powerful philosophical, metaphysical, theological role. The Industrial Revolution said, we don't need God. See how great man can create. This is when machines, everything's patents just exploded in the world almost overnight. And what the Industrial Revolution did was bring the concept of a personal creator God another quarter of the way down the video screen of history and elevated man. But there were 2 things it couldn't answer, 2 questions: the origin of man and the origin of the universe. Then what happened at the beginning of the previous century? What came onto the scene? Anyone? Origin of species, Darwinism, evolution. Now listen carefully to the words I use. I choose them very selectively. Darwinism says we don't even need the concept of a personal creator God. And with Darwinism, the concept there's a personal creator God in which all truth resides fell off the video screen of history. And it left man. This is what is referred to as the God is dead movement. Now, it's not like a lot of evangelist pastors would make jokes. Oh, sure, God was alive and he died. That has nothing to do with it. The God is dead movement is not that God was alive and he died. It's that there is a concept of a personal creator God in which all truth resides. That concept died. It left man. Almost every thought in the world today, and much of what's happening right now in the world, and what happened in Europe recently, 3 of the most staggering statements ever made politically in the last 100 years were made in the last 6 weeks. 1, 2 days ago. And I'll get to it in just a second. Out of this progression came almost every line of thought today. It's affected missions, everything. Out of this came the #1 virtue in all history. Far greater than freedom, far greater than justice. Can anyone tell me what's the #1 virtue in the entire world, accepted by more people, believed by more people than any other virtue in history? What is it? Anyone? Tolerance. Tolerance came right out of here. Because how could one person, go back to the screen, how could one person say to the other person, what you believe is wrong? What you believe is wrong. Because where's your external reference point? That's only your opinion. That's your perspective. And what's tolerance? I wrote a whole book on it. Tolerance now means that all values, all beliefs, all lifestyles, all claims to truth are equal. Because how can one person say to another person, your claim to truth isn't as good as mine? Why? Where's your external reference point? That's only your opinion. You think I'm wrong on that? Then you just check out the number one phrase. This year I spent almost a month in China. Same thing true there. One of the top 2 to 3 phrases used by youth all over the world is this: well, it might be true for you, but it's not true for me. Came right out of here. Because where's your external reference point? Out of here came the second virtue, which is actually just an extension of tolerance applied to culture. That's all it is, called multiculturalism. Multiculturalism teaches, has nothing to do with the color of your skin. Multiculturalism has nothing to do with your ethnic background or anything, folks. Multiculturalism is the concept of tolerance applied to culture, which says that all cultural values, all cultural beliefs, all cultural lifestyles, all cultural claims to truth are what? Equal. Because how can one culture say to another culture, your claims to truth aren't as good as ours? They're not as true as ours. How can you say that? Where's your external reference point? That's only your cultural truth. This is why one of the biggest barriers to missions today, and I don't think most mission leaders realize how much this affects the ability to respond of younger people to a call to missions, is what right do you have to go to another culture and take what you consider to be truth to that culture? What right do you have to do that? Who do you think you are? How can you say that your truth is better than somebody else's truth, or your lifestyle or values or beliefs? It's become one of the biggest barriers to young people, about 25, 30 and younger, responding all over the world. Came right out of here. Now, this is interesting what's happened. Multiculturalism is the very foundation of every university in the world. It is. It's the foundation of the U.S. government. It's the foundation of the United Nations, of almost every government. However, there's been an interesting development that has taken place. Because you see, multiculturalism is a false concept. I don't know how you can have the whole loaf sliced and not realize it. It's a false concept. It's not reality, and it can't work. Tolerance can't. Several months ago, it was almost never covered by any press in the United States because of what it meant to the universities and to the news media. Chancellor Merkel of Germany, at the national convention of their youth for their political party, in giving the main opening address, made a statement that shook much of the world, would have the United States if anybody would have covered it. She started out the most, I never thought in my lifetime I would hear any leader say this. Now, I know a lot of leaders believe it, but nobody has the guts to say it. She said, young people, multiculturalism has failed. She said, no, it has absolutely failed. It is a false concept. Do you know what that means? She is saying there are truths that are greater than other truths. There are values that are worse than other values. There are lifestyles that are healthier than other lifestyles. There are beliefs that are different, and not only different, but better. Africa, it's spread through Africa. South America, Asia, never hit the United States. Then, was it last week, Prime Minister Cameron of England, speaking at the European Community Congress, he stood up and he said right off the bat, he says, we have been fooled. Multiculturalism is a false concept. It has totally failed in Europe. I mean, do you realize? I mean, I don't think any politician in 100 years has been in any statement that has such significance as those two statements. And then 4 days ago, President Sarkozy of France, I mean, France is the banner carrier of multiculturalism. And Sarkozy, on a national address in France, said, we have been following a false concept. Multiculturalism is dead. It has failed. None of that was played in the United States. I mean, I don't know what universities can do with it. The basis of everything they teach is based on everything is equal. All values, all beliefs, all lifestyle. Now, I don't think they ever believed it. But you see, this is what happened. Back at the turn of the century, humanism was exploding in the world. It was the multiculturalism of that day. It was the battle cry of tolerance. But what happened? World War I. And it just smacked them. They said, wait a minute. I mean, we've taught that man is innately good. There is no sin. There is no evil in man. And they had one of the worst wars in history. They started to recover from it. What happened? World War II hit, and it killed it. I really believe, Merkel, Cameron, and Sarkozy is World War I to postmodernism. I really do. You see what happened after World War II? They said, we can't have another war like this. We can't. With technology is going to come along, everything. So we've got to devise a way to live in peace. And so what they devised, the erudites, is we must teach that everything is equal. If we can bring up a generation that truly believes all truth is equal, all beliefs are equal, all values, all lifestyle, then why would there ever be war? Because if we truly teach all is equal, no one person will impose their values upon another then. It'll be anathema. I don't think, they didn't really believe it. But I believe they were sincere in saying, we've got to do something. And they came up with postmodernism and multiculturalism. We have seen World War I to multiculturalism. And what's happening in the Middle East and some other things that could probably happen next 6 months might be the World War II of it. But I'll tell you this. You might well see in the next 2 to 3 years, one of the biggest barriers to young people responding to missions is going to have its World War II. And all of a sudden, because see, now in Europe, the hotbed of multiculturalism says there are values better than others. There are truth claims that are better than others. They've seen this in immigration and everything. Well, let me tell you, now, you all mark my word here. I believe it can knock down one of the biggest barriers to missions. But this is what I love about Mission Connection. One of their biggest assets is education. I got to admit, the only reason I came to Mission Connection was because of Bill, not really because of him, but because he's the father of my son-in-law. No, Bill, it's the only reason. Why? I'd been to some missions conferences and I thought, it's not my bag. I want to change the world. It's not my bag. And I turned down everything. Of course, in that area, there's not a whole lot of invitations because there's not a whole lot of groups. But I came up here because Bill is a father-in-law of my son-in-law who I just admire and respect. I'm so glad I came up there because I probably saw more enthusiasm in one day about missions than I've ever seen in a week. And I'm on Campus Crusade for Christ staff, folks. Just don't go call Steve Douglas right now and tell him I said that.